Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and much to my amusement, Brittany put up a picture of coffee on my Instagram this morning during my training session, and people are already coming in like, oh my god, I thought you said pre-workouts don't work. I thought you said caffeine doesn't work. Why are you drinking coffee during your workouts? You're such a hypocrite. And it's kind of like, what are you talking about? I drink coffee because number one, I really like coffee, and I've been drinking it since I was 10 years old. And number two, because I'm a caffeine addict. I'm addicted to caffeine and coffee because I've been drinking it for over 30 years. So the fact that I'm drinking coffee in the morning, even large amounts of it, literally has nothing to do with the fact that I lift weights. I was drinking coffee for a decade before I ever touched a barbell. So really kind of a bizarre statement, but it does bring us to another interesting point. And that is that I always tell people there's no evidence. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary showing that taking pre-workouts has any benefit whatsoever to your actual training results. And that is a very important distinction that we have to draw on this topic. Because here's the thing. Yes, drinking coffee and taking caffeine can boost your workouts. That doesn't mean that someone who drinks coffee or takes caffeine is going to have an actual benefit over, say, several months over someone who chooses not to do those things. All right, there's a difference between temporary boost in performance through, say, your adrenal glands or whatever else is going on versus that actually having a training response. And that's a very critical point when we're discussing stuff like this, because people just assume automatically that if anything that helps you train harder or lift more weight is automatically going to equal better results, right? But that's not necessarily the case, and that's something that's been noted in a bit of research looked at over the years, is that in some cases large amounts of psychological arousal, psyching yourself up before lifts too frequently, can actually reduce your results slightly over time. People would say, what? And the reason for that is that it affects your fatigue management. Meaning, even if a person calmly lifts the same weight, say whatever it is, 300 pounds for 5 reps on whatever the exercise is, versus if they do it calmly and focused versus if they psych themselves up first, even though the same amount of work was done, the person who psychs themselves up more seems to slightly cut into their recovery inroads more. So when we look at it from that perspective, and in fact, it's even more so if they lift even more weight. So if your recovery is more beat up as a result of the psychological arousal, then again, a stimulant could do that just as much as getting yourself psyched up, screaming, jamming to Slayer, whatever it happens to be. The extra training stimulus you got might be outweighed by it impacting your recovery inroads enough that you have to wait one more day before you can replicate a similar training load again, in which case you have one less day of potential muscle growth that week on a given exercise or body part or whatever it is you happen to be training or doing. There may actually be a negative, enough so that it might give you a negative result, meaning less growth, less adaptation, or it might counterbalance the additional training stimulus that you got. So in light of that, one could argue that there is no net benefit to the caffeine. Caffeine is a short-term performance enhancer. We know that. That's documented. It does boost strength slightly. And once you're addicted to caffeine, you need it to lift ideally. You almost need it to train maximally. So in that case, you absolutely need it. But it's documented enough that it's banned in the Olympics. But you need to understand there's a difference between an acute and a chronic response in the body. Now, we don't have long-term studies on coffee. No one has funded a big study on coffee over, say, 10 weeks involving 50 people in each group, with dietitians and strength coaches writing their programs and their meal plans and everything to see if the people who choose to drink coffee gain more muscle or strength over the course of weeks, right? We don't have studies on that. So we don't know one way or another if coffee boosts your training results. Therefore, I don't drink the coffee because I'm expecting it to give me an improved result. I drink coffee because I drink coffee on the days I don't lift too. I don't drink more coffee on my lifting days than I do on my days off from the gym. All right, I don't. And there are health benefits to coffee. Coffee has actual health benefits as far as insulin sensitivity, diabetes, things like that. Lowers your rate of diabetes. People who drink significant amounts of strong coffee actually get diabetes at a lower rate. It seems to help with glucose disposal and insulin sensitivity a little bit. So there's other reasons to drink coffee. Plus, I just really love coffee. So it's not like I'm drinking it because of the training response. I'm drinking it because I love it and I'm addicted to it. And conversely, when we get over to pre-workouts, we have had studies and we have found that there is no chronic result. Meaning when you take a pre-workout, it only helps you with that one workout, but it doesn't seem to help you over the long term. In other words, when the groups are compared, only people who are on really bad routines seem to really benefit from a pre-workout, because they need that extra boost because their fatigue management isn't managed correctly, and so they have workouts that are in a little bit of a slump and they need that boost. When people are put on properly structured routines written by a legitimate coach, people on pre-workouts do not gain any muscle or strength over people in another group who don't take any. Therefore, if you're taking a pre-workout for the purpose of expecting to get better results from it, you're wasting your money. Now we get to the other point of people are like, well, I take it because of whatever reason. It gives me focus. It does this and that. That's called marketing. You've been sold a bunch of BS. And what you need to factor in is the other thing. I drink coffee because I'm addicted to it. You don't think pre-workouts are addictive? And I can assure you that anyone taking a pre-workout spends a lot more on their pre-workouts than I spend on my normal coffee, now my regular Folgers and stuff. Now, we do get really good coffee because one of Brittany's hair clients works for a hair or a coffee importer, and Brittany does her hair in exchange for gourmet coffee. She pays her in coffee. All right? That's how valuable of a commodity coffee is in our household. One of her clients pays her for hair services, for color and all that, in gourmet coffee. All right, that's how much of a premium we put on this substance that we are addicted to, in this case, coffee. You want to go get addicted to a pre-workout that might be illegal next year? Just because some supplement company or some YouTuber or some bodybuilder told you, hey man, it helps me get pumped, it helps me get the drive to go through my workouts and go beast mode. I go alpha as fuck. They tell you that and you go buy this $40, $50 tub of crap and then you get addicted to it. What happens when it gets outlawed? What happens when that happens? Because that happens all the time. You got to remember, a lot of these pre-workouts have meth analogs and stuff in them. Well, what happens when you get addicted to that meth analog? And then the company quits putting it in the product. I'm just saying that's a very, very important consideration. I mean, if you are going to choose to get addicted to some substance, I'm going to, number one, recommend that you pick something that you can obtain legally and hopefully in the long term for the rest of your life. In other words, something that is not at risk of being outlawed, in which you could get into, have basically trouble finding it, or you could get into legal trouble for getting addicted to it. Number two, hopefully it's something that you actually enjoy for some actual benefit besides some perceived benefit of going to the gym hoping it's going to give you better gains, because in this case it won't. That's why I tell people all the time that commodities that people should stockpile. On my gun channel, guys, I talk about prepping and shit hit the fan scenarios and all that. 3 items that I recommend people stockpile for later barter if the economy ever collapses: cigarettes, alcohol, and coffee, because those are people's vices. They're legal, they can be obtained cheaply and stockpiled cheaply, and if there's ever an economic collapse, they're going to be worth a fortune in other trade goods. There are things that you can stockpile. Coffee's on that list. People get addicted to it. Millions and millions of Americans are addicted to coffee. Fortunately for us, it has some health benefits and it tastes good and everything else. But when you're dealing with something like a pre-workout, you're buying something very expensive. You're buying something that may not be available 6 months from now, because look how many main ingredients in these substances have been outlawed. And it's something that people charge a high premium for. What are you going to do when you're addicted to it and you now need it to train, And it's not something like coffee that you can go buy at every grocery store in large quantities. What are you going to do then? Now you've screwed yourself. Now, it's brilliant marketing on the part of the companies who do it, but they are giving it to you with no reach around and no lube, because they're selling you guys addictive substances that you now need in order to train. They don't actually give you any long-term benefits, and they charge you a hell of a lot more than I pay for coffee, which is my addiction. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.